The rage unleashed. The night sky over Manhattan was choked with smoke. Sirens screamed from every direction, their wails drowned out by the deeper, bone-rattling sound of something tearing through steel and concrete. At first, people thought it was another earthquake, until they saw him. Hulk. But this was no Avenger, no savior. This was raw fury unbound, a green inferno of muscle and rage tearing down avenues with fists large enough to crush buses into scrap. His roar thundered down the skyscraper canyons, shaking windows until they shattered. A single swing of his arm sent a yellow taxi spinning through the air like a toy. The once-beloved hero was gone, and in his place stood a force of nature that even the gods might fear. On the 47th floor of a half-collapsed office tower, Spider-Man crouched against a cracked steel beam, mask lenses narrowing as he took in the scene below. His heart pounded so hard he felt it through his gloves. "Okay, Pete," he muttered under his breath. "He's big, he's angry, and he can probably juggle tanks if he feels like it. But hey, you've stopped runaway subway trains before. This is just a slightly bigger train with a much worse attitude." He fired 2 quick webs and swung down into the chaos, dodging falling glass and twisted metal. The streets were clogged with panicked civilians, running in every direction. A young girl had frozen in the middle of the crosswalk, her teddy bear clutched to her chest as Hulk barreled toward her like a charging bull. "Not on my watch." Spider-Man shot a webline, yanking himself forward like a slingshot. In the same instant, he scooped the girl into his arms, swinging them out of Hulk's path just as the giant's foot came down. The impact shook the street, collapsing a nearby storefront into rubble. Setting the girl down safely in the arms of a frantic mother, Spider-Man turned back toward Hulk, chest heaving. "Banner, buddy, you've had better days," Spidey called, voice cracking with forced humor. "Maybe we skip the whole rampage through Midtown routine and, I dunno, grab some shawarma instead?" Hulk's eyes, glowing an unnatural shade of green, locked onto him. There was no flicker of recognition, no sign of the man who had once saved the world. With a roar that shattered car windows, Hulk charged. Spider-Man vaulted upward, swinging between streetlights as Hulk ripped one from the ground and hurled it like a javelin. The pole missed by inches, skewering the side of a building. Spidey's mind raced. He couldn't fight Hulk head-on. No one could. His only option was to stall, to keep him occupied until someone stronger arrived. That thought had barely crossed his mind when the heavens answered. A jagged bolt of lightning split the sky, striking the asphalt in front of Hulk. The ground cracked and sizzled, forcing the monster to halt his advance. Through the smoke, a figure descended, cloak billowing, Mjolnir glowing like a fragment of a dying star. Thor had arrived. "Hulk!" the Thunder God's voice boomed, echoing like rolling storms. "Cease this madness before I am forced to bring the fury of Asgard upon thee." For a moment, Spider-Man felt relief. Reinforcements. A literal god on his side. But as he watched Thor's stance, rigid, hammer raised, unease crept in. Thor wasn't here to calm Hulk. He was here to fight him. "Thor, wait!" Spider-Man swung down, landing on a crushed car between them. "You can't just go full lightning bolt right away. That's Banner in there, not some frost giant. We can't." Before he could finish, Hulk lunged forward, fist slamming into the pavement with enough force to send cars flipping end over end. Spider-Man leapt away, barely avoiding being flattened. Thor braced himself and swung Mjolnir, the hammer colliding with Hulk's shoulder in an explosion of sparks. The shockwave shattered every window for 2 blocks. Hulk stumbled, then roared louder, angrier. His fist lashed out, catching Thor across the chest and sending him crashing into a city bus, which crumpled like paper. Spider-Man's heart sank. If Thor couldn't overpower him, what chance did anyone have? Still, he refused to give up. That was the human way. You don't quit, even when the odds are insane. Leaping into the fray, Spider-Man fired webs at Hulk's eyes, blinding him for a split second. It was enough for Thor to recover, lightning crackling around his hammer as he rose back into the storm. Together, they pressed forward, one god, one mortal. Spider-Man darted around Hulk's legs, tying them with layer after layer of webbing, while Thor struck from above, hammer glowing like the sun itself. Yet Hulk tore through the webs as if they were thread, and each strike from Thor only seemed to enrage him further. And then it happened. Hulk grabbed Thor mid-swing, slamming him into the pavement hard enough to leave a crater. Spider-Man froze, horror gripping his chest. Hulk loomed over Thor, both fists raised for the killing blow. In that split second, Peter's instincts screamed. He fired a desperate webline to Hulk's face and yanked with all his strength, dragging the monster's attention back to him. "Hey, big guy!" Spider-Man shouted, lungs burning. "Pick on someone your own pant size!" Hulk roared, turning his fury back toward Spider-Man. Thor coughed, staggering to his feet. Their eyes met across the battlefield, and an unspoken truth passed between them. This wasn't just about strength. Hulk wasn't a monster to be destroyed. He was a man lost in his own storm. And if they didn't find a way to reach him soon, New York, maybe the entire world, would pay the price. The battle had only begun. Clash of Titans. The storm over Manhattan had thickened into a furious black crown. Lightning forked across the sky, illuminating a city torn apart. Entire avenues lay in ruins, cars overturned, storefronts burning. Above it all, the guttural roar of Hulk shook the heavens. Thor wiped the blood from his lip as he rose from the crater Hulk had slammed him into. His armor was dented, his cape in tatters, yet his eyes still burned with godly fire. Mjolnir hummed with electric rage in his grip. Spider-Man, perched on a lamppost bent at a 45-degree angle, caught his breath. His chest ached from dodging falling debris, his mask torn at the cheek. But the quips in his head hadn't stopped. If anything, they were louder now, bubbling beneath the fear. "Okay," Peter muttered to himself. "So far the score is Hulk, one skyscraper, Thor, one flattened bus, and me, one very traumatized kid saved from being Hulk's pancake. Great job, Spidey. Really holding the line here." But jokes couldn't mask the truth. They weren't winning. Hulk smashed his fists into the ground, cracking the street wide open. Pavement split like a canyon, swallowing cars whole. Civilians screamed as they scrambled to safety. Spider-Man dove in, webbing up two falling pedestrians and yanking them to solid ground. He barely had time to breathe before Hulk swung an uprooted traffic light at him like a bat. Yikes! Spidey flipped over it, landing on the wall of a half-collapsed bank. He shot webs to pin the makeshift weapon, but Hulk ripped free with terrifying ease. "Thor!" Spider-Man shouted. "I can stall him, but we can't just keep trading punches. The guy only gets angrier." Thor gritted his teeth, lightning wreathing his hammer. I see it. His strength waxes with his fury. The more I strike, the mightier he becomes. Yet I cannot let this beast destroy Midgard." "Not a beast," Spider-Man shot back. "That's still Banner under all the muscle." Before they could argue further, Hulk's roar silenced them both. The Green Giant's gaze locked on Thor, fury burning like wildfire. With a leap that cracked the earth beneath him, Hulk soared through the storm. He collided with Thor mid-air, tackling him through a skyscraper's upper floors. Glass and steel rained down like a deadly storm. Spider-Man swung desperately to follow, weaving through falling debris. His mind raced. He couldn't outpunch Hulk, and Thor's brute strength was only feeding the monster's rage. There had to be another way. Inside the collapsing tower, Thor and Hulk tore through floors like paper. Thor swung Mjolnir in a desperate arc, lightning bursting outward. Hulk caught the hammer mid-swing, and, impossibly, held it back. The shockwave blasted walls apart. "No one stops the Hulk!" the giant bellowed, slamming his forehead into Thor's helm. The god reeled. Hulk followed with a devastating uppercut that sent Thor crashing through 3 floors before slamming into the lobby. Spider-Man shot into the collapsing building, dodging concrete chunks as he swung past the carnage. He found Thor half buried under rubble, groaning but alive. Hulk dropped through the ceiling after him, each step an earthquake. Spidey's heart hammered. "Okay, think, Parker. You fought lizards, goblins, aliens, even that whole Thanos situation. You're still here. Why? Because brains beat brawn. So, time to outthink the angriest brain on Earth." He fired webs at Hulk's fists, yanking them together. For a split second, Hulk stumbled, and Thor struck again, lightning erupting point-blank. The explosion of energy lit the entire street in blinding white. When the smoke cleared, Hulk stood panting, his skin glowing with gamma heat, his muscles trembling with power. And still he did not fall. Instead, his eyes flared brighter, veins coursing like rivers of molten green fire. Spider-Man's stomach dropped. Thor? I think you just made him angrier." With a roar, Hulk seized Thor by the cape and hurled him into a building across the street, shattering it like a sandcastle. Spider-Man barely had time to react before Hulk turned on him. The ground shook with every step. Peter backed up, firing web after web, trying to slow the monster. Each line snapped like thread. "Banner, listen to me," Spider-Man shouted, desperation in his voice. "You're not just rage. You're a scientist, a hero. You saved people. You saved me." For the first time, Hulk hesitated. His fists clenched, his breathing heavy. Behind the rage, a flicker, the faintest glimmer of humanity. But then thunder rolled again. Thor emerged from the rubble, hammer raised high, his patience gone. "Enough," the god bellowed. "If he will not yield, then I shall strike him down." "No!" Spider-Man yelled, springing between them. "Thor, stop. Every time you hit him, you're just feeding the fire." Thor's jaw tightened, his storm-dark eyes locked on Hulk. "And what dost thou propose, boy?" "That we speak kind words whilst he rends this city asunder." Before Spider-Man could answer, Hulk charged again. Thor swung instinctively, lightning crashing down. The impact shook the city block, throwing Spider-Man across the street. He landed hard, wind knocked from his lungs. Through the haze of smoke, he saw Hulk towering over Thor, pressing him to the ground. Thor strained, teeth gritted, but even a god's strength seemed useless now. Something in Spider-Man snapped. He staggered to his feet, shouting at the top of his lungs. "Banner, don't let it win. You're stronger than this." The words echoed across the ruins, cutting through thunder and chaos. Hulk froze, his massive hands trembling around Thor. His eyes flickered, green flame dimming for an instant. Thor gasped, pinned beneath him, realizing the truth. Perhaps brute force was not the answer. Perhaps humanity's stubborn hope, frail, foolish, yet unyielding, was the key. The storm raged overhead. Hulk's roar built in his chest, but his grip loosened. For a heartbeat, it seemed like the man inside was fighting back. And then, with terrifying fury, Hulk slammed both fists into the ground, creating a shockwave that leveled the block. Thor and Spider-Man were thrown aside like leaves in a gale. As dust rose around the ruins, Spider-Man coughed, pulling himself upright. His mask was torn, one eye lens shattered. Thor limped from the wreckage, Mjolnir dim in his hand. Hulk stood in the center of the destruction, chest heaving, eyes glowing brighter than ever. The battle wasn't over. It was only escalating. And if they couldn't reach Bruce Banner soon, there would be no city left to save. Humanity's fire. The storm over Manhattan raged like the anger in Hulk's chest. Thunder tore across the sky, and lightning split the heavens into jagged scars of light. Below, the city lay broken, Streets shattered, skyscrapers scarred, fires painting the night in red and gold. And in the middle of it all stood Hulk, chest heaving, glowing green veins pulsing like rivers of molten fury. Every breath was a roar, every movement a quake. He looked less like a man and more like a living apocalypse. Thor staggered to his feet, one knee bent, Mjolnir loose in his grasp. His armor was cracked, his face bruised, but his spirit had not yet broken. Across the ruined avenue, Spider-Man struggled to stand, mask torn, one lens shattered. His ribs ached, his head rang, but he forced himself up. That was what Peter Parker did, get up, even when the world begged him to stay down. "Thor!" Spider-Man's voice cracked, muffled through the ripped mask. "If we keep fighting him like this, there won't be a city left to save." Thor clenched his jaw, stormfire raging in his eyes. "Then what would you have us do, boy? Stand idle as he rends Midgard asunder?" "No," Spider-Man said, limping forward, his gaze locked on Hulk. "We don't stand idle. We stand human. Banner's still in there. And if we're going to save him, we need to remind him who he is." Thor lowered his hammer, uncertain. It was not the way of gods to fight with words when weapons failed. But he saw something in the mortal's eyes, an unyielding fire that even Asgardians could not match. Hulk stomped forward, fists clenched, eyes blazing. His roar shattered glass still clinging to ruined towers. The ground trembled as he prepared to leap, to crush them both in one unstoppable strike. But Spider-Man did the unthinkable. He tore off his mask. The stormlight fell on Peter Parker's bruised, bloodied face. His brown eyes burned with something Hulk had not seen in years, compassion. "Bruce!" Peter shouted, voice raw and desperate. "I know you can hear me. This isn't you. You're not a monster. You're the man who fought for people who hated you. The man who stood against gods and aliens because Earth needed you. You're my friend. And I'm not going to let rage take you away from us." For a heartbeat, the world seemed to pause. Hulk's massive chest heaved, his fists trembling at his sides. His glowing eyes flickered, not just rage, but pain. The memory of a man buried under mountains of fury. Thor, sensing the shift, lowered Mjolnir completely. "Banner, son of Midgard, hear him. Thou art not alone in this struggle." But rage does not yield easily. Hulk roared again, louder than thunder, and charged. The earth cracked under his sprint. Spider-Man stood his ground, maskless, arms spread. His legs screamed at him to move, to leap, to survive, but he didn't. "Do it, Bruce. If all that's left is the monster, then I'd rather die as your friend than run from you as your enemy." Hulk's fist swung like a meteor. At the last possible second, it stopped, inches from Peter's face. The green giant trembled, veins bulging, breath ragged. His hand shook violently, torn between crushing and sparing. Peter didn't flinch. He just looked into Hulk's eyes, unmasked, unguarded, fully human. And slowly, impossibly, the fist lowered. Hulk staggered back, clutching his head, roaring not in fury now but in torment. The glow in his eyes dimmed, his muscles shrinking, his body shaking as the storm within him broke apart. In a flash of green light and smoke, the monster fell to his knees. And Bruce Banner emerged. Weak, shivering, broken, but alive. The storm above quieted, lightning fading into silence. The fires of Manhattan crackled in the distance, the only sound in a city holding its breath. Spider-Man collapsed to his knees, chest heaving, relief flooding his battered body. Thor stepped forward, resting a hand gently on Banner's shoulder. "You fought well, son of Midgard," Thor said softly. "But it was not my hammer, nor your fury, that saved this realm. It was the fire of humanity, stubborn, fragile, yet stronger than gods." Peter gave a weary chuckle. "Yeah, let's just call it teamwork." Banner, pale and trembling, whispered hoarsely, "I almost killed you all." Spider-Man shook his head. "No, Bruce. You fought it. You won. That's what makes you human." Dawn began to creep over the horizon, the sky bleeding into soft orange. The battle was over. The scars on the city would take years to heal, but for now Earth had been spared. Not because of thunder, not because of webs, but because humanity's fire, the courage to hope, to fight for each other, to never give up, burned brighter than rage. Spider-Man pulled his mask back on, standing beside Thor and Banner. Three heroes, broken but unbowed, looking out over a battered city that would rise again. Because humanity always did.